Hey, welcome back to Daily Flash. I'm Mitch English. You have kids, you definitely want to tune into this. It's no secret that today's kids are really, and even young adults, carry burdens that previous generations were actually sheltered from. As a result, it's actually causing a mental health crisis with our younger generation. So joining us now with some advice on how we can actually navigate through these challenging times is Dr. Frieda Birnbaum. We welcome her back to the show. Hi, Dr. Frieda.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
We love having you on. You know, it is something it's something that we see all the time. What are some of the causes of these mental health issues?
You know, it starts at home. It always starts at home. And parents need to take responsibility. If you see your child not acting the way they usually act, depressed, isolated, not talking, that's a heads up to go ahead and connect and see what's really going on. Then what about school? If you see a student sitting alone, go ahead and join that person. Go sit down, befriend them every week, bring them to your friends. And this way that person doesn't feel rejected or alone, because the number one cause for depression often is in young men who feel rejected. They're not doing well in school. They don't have girlfriends, or in their careers as well. They could be suicidal. So that's really a danger point. But we do have to bring these people in and make them feel accepted, because we're often very discriminating against their race, their religion, the way they look, the way they dress. All this nonsense has to stop, and we have to be able to accept everybody and enjoy the differences. Absolutely.
You mentioned all that, and then that's coupled with, let's say, you know, for young kids, you know, 12, you have a lot of hormones going through 12-year-old, 13-year-olds, you know, around that age, and then the frontal globe isn't really fully developed in our 20-year-olds. So you add that together. You know, a lot of it is just they feel like nobody can understand them, I would imagine, and that's when reaching out to them is actually going to be able to help, saying, hey, look, there is help out there.
Yes, absolutely right. That's so important what you just said, because what does happen is that the brain chemistry actually changes as you start thinking differently, and the frontal cortex does develop at that time, and that's very dangerous. But you know, there are ways to treat this. When we're talking about mental depression, it's really very medical, and it has to do with the brain. So how do we treat that? Well, number one, we have acute depression, which is chronic. That sometimes needs medical attention and medication. But then there's episodal. And you know, episodal, what do you think is the first problem, the first anxiety-provoking situation with episodal anxiety and depression? Do you know what that is?
I would imagine it has something to do with a friend, social peers.
That sounds right, but it's speaking in public. Being able to speak to other children in class and having the presence to be heard is something that's very scary, not only to children, but to adults. And then there are changes. If a child has to go ahead and change schools, change locations, change friends, that's also very threatening to have to deal and know how to deal with that, because children really are used to the same. They don't like differences. So we have to look at these effects. And then there are things that do need medical attention. Schizophrenia, which is hallucinating, or bipolar, which is manic depressive. Those things do not help with cognitive therapy. They do need to have medications resolved. So parents need to know what to look for so they can treat it appropriately.
Okay, and you know, I want to move forward a little bit, because if your child or maybe a loved one really struggling with their mental health, you're saying that there's actually 3 things that we can do. You kind of mentioned that first one, but can we go through some of those things, the first steps?
Yes, you know, first of all, listen. Connect. When you talk to your child, when there's nothing that important to talk about, that child feels safe when there are important things to talk about. So connect to the child, maintain a certain communication. Social media is also very toxic. Keep them away from social media, because what happens is you see all these people having a great time. You know, that's not natural. Everybody does get depressed once in a while. And when you see people face to face, you're able to react appropriately. So do go ahead and allow your child to have all the feelings and to be able to express negativity, because negative thoughts are really what promotes all this depression. We need to change the negative thoughts into positive thoughts.
And I would imagine, too, don't wait for that professional help. Have the kids stay off of social media. 3 great things, very simple things we can do, and you can take it and you can work with that professional as well. Dr. Frieda, very good information. We want folks at home, if they have any other questions or like to find out more, you can always visit drfrieda.com. She always is here on their show with helping us and living our lives and helping others as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Frieda.